Hello and welcome to the Believe Show. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Heather Petruzzelli. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Senya. How are you?
Very, very good. Thrilled we have you on. So,
Thank you.
truthfully, we have never had someone who does professional opera singing, professional big band singing, and big jazz and teaches it to people. So, I'm thrilled to have you on, and I'm excited to tell people a little about you and then just have a chat.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let me tell you a little bit about Heather before we start. Let me show you let me show you the first page of her bio. Okay, here we go. So a little bit about Heather so that you know about our guest for today.
Mhm.
We have Heather, and she is at her website, Heather Petruzzelli. Heather Petruzzelli trains performers and professionals in voice. She's the head of voice and music for the Malloy College CAP 21 BFA Theater Arts program. Heather teaches for several conservatories in New York City as a voice teacher, and she is a positive psychology-based life coach. So hello, welcome, Heather.
Hello. Thank you.
Let's start with our three impromptu lightning round questions, okay? When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, wow. Several different things. One thing that I really wanted to be was somebody who worked with dolphins, because I think that I know, right? So out of where I ended up in life, but I think I just loved being in the ocean so much. So I thought that would be, a job that I could do. Yeah, that was one of the things. And then of course, I wanted to be a singer and an actress, depending upon like where you caught me, what point in my life. But yeah, those are the things that stand out right now.
And have you had any chance to do anything with dolphins?
Now I wouldn't necessarily swim with them because I feel like on a, I don't know, ethical level, I don't necessarily want to get in their way, but I have been able to swim in the ocean with whale sharks as just for fun, but not professionally.
So cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So I love asking this question because the answers are so unexpected. Very, very cool. And what is one of your favorite foods?
I like to eat a lot of different foods, but I would say something that I really like, that I like to make is hummus. I make a lot of different hummus, different kinds of hummus, and I have a Ninja and I just throw everything in. And people in my family actually ask me to bring that to holidays. So that's like the only thing they ask me to bring to holidays, that and the wine. So hummus might be the best answer.
What's the flavor that you've made that recently that you really like?
White bean harissa.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that's my answer.
And then last of these lightning round questions. High school can be a challenging time. What was a good part of high school for you?
That's a really good question, because I think everyone can think of the bad parts very easily, right? The good part for me was, I think, finding my tribe a little bit. So the weirdos who were kind of on the outskirts a little bit, who were creative and did their own thing, and also I had some nice support from people who saw in me the potential to move forward in music and things like that. So that was good.
That's beautiful. That's really nice. That's really nice. I did some theater in high school too, and it's so fun finding that tribe, like you said, just figuring out who the people are.
Yeah, and you can really just, I think that's really important for kids, and also, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to lead to a career, but it helps those people find something within themselves that you're not going to find in math class, necessarily.
Well, you might find in math class if that's your tribe.
That's true. That's true. But if you're leaning in a more creative way, that might not be the direction. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So coming to this belief idea, what is something that you believe that others may disagree with you about?
Yeah, I sat with this question a little bit, and I think the thing that I'm coming to most recently is in kind of moving forward within our lives. It's not just thinking our way out of a problem, right? It's not just putting things in place. There's having been trained in positive psychology through the Flourishing Center, the Practical Application Certificate Program. There's a lot of information that we can take that I have taken from that, and that I use in terms of steps that you want to take and ways that you want to switch your thinking. But I also think something that I've come to is this relationship with our bodies, the interoception that we can develop in order to kind of be tapped into the bigger picture of ourselves. And as a singer and a performer, I am aware of that. I was aware of that before, but I think what is new for me is really truly dropping into that and understanding that and how that impacts the people that I'm talking to. If I'm connected to myself, how that impacts them. So that would be a belief that I'm working within my own coaching, that I don't know if maybe everyone's caught on to that, but I would say check it out, because it actually is something really powerful.
Can you give a little more clarity on how to use it or how to check in with it? Especially, you used a term that I'm actually totally not familiar with, interoception.
So that is just your sensing of the internal working. So it might be the tingles that you feel, the gut reaction that you feel inside your body. It might even be something that you feel in your hip. It could be just that internal sensing and awareness that doesn't necessarily come, that we feel first, that we might have a sense of, and that when perhaps we get triggered, we're reacting to, and we're not necessarily aware that it's coming from this sense of within our bodies. So developing interoception is the ability to listen on the inside, and how that works, what kind of information that can give you when, just being present. So an example might be, earlier today, I was a little nervous about coming on the show. I'll be honest, right? So, we're humans. This is how this goes. And I was just sitting in meditation, and I just noticed within myself just something that was blocking, just a stop, like a resistance. And that, because I feel like I've been working with developing interoception, I was able to kind of look at that for a moment and let it go. So that then my emotional state that I was experiencing had shifted from there. So it's that. Does that help answer your question?
It does. It does. You're defining interoception. What's the word?
And forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, but it's Interoception.
How interesting. So I'm familiar with proprioception, which is kind of where is your body in space. So, for example, if you stand on one foot, I'm doing it right now, but you get a little more. Proprioception is important, but I had never heard of interoception. So what I'm understanding from you is your belief is when we are more listening to our interoception, it actually helps our relationship and interactions with other people.
It does. And I'm going to say this with the caveat that I'm not an expert in this field at all, but I do believe that my understanding is that if we are listening in that way, we are tuned into, we're accessing more of our empathic networking. So we're kind of taking ourselves out of the problem solving, and we're dropping in to that other side. So you could even say perhaps we're going into parasympathetic nervous system activation, things like that. Again, that's just sort of where my journey has taken me lately, but it does, it's not entirely the answer, but when you couple that with, let's say someone's working on, with some of my performers, they get a lot of information. They have a lot of voices in their head, and they're told they have to fix a lot of stuff, and they get really taken away from why they're even doing this career, because there's a lot of judgment that's being thrown their way. And so I think that giving them a chance to drop in and take that breath and reconnect with what it is within themselves that has taken them to even make the crazy choice of being an artist, that career choice, and reconnecting them with that, it gives a lot more space and perspective on the bigger picture, I think, by going in.
Yes, absolutely makes sense. How have you used this listening to or checking into introspection with some of the people that you've coached vocally?
I would say that there's moments when, and I would say specifically in a teaching experience, in that relationship, I'm sort of on, I'm in problem solving myself, because I'm trying to go back and forth so that I'm present in a certain way, and I'm helping them fix the issues that are happening with their singing. But if I see within them, they've gotten in their heads too much, or they're sort of cycling through negative thinking as they're trying to accomplish something, I might take them and ask them to do just a stretch, just ask them to take a breath and do, there's this really wonderful book called Accessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve. Actually, it's sitting right next to me, by Stanley Rosenberg. I don't know if you've ever seen this one.
No, but you're showing us.
It's really terrific. And there's some stretches in there that I will actually add while I'm teaching. And it brings them, they're able to kind of go back inside through that just physical activity. They can take a breath, and then we can get back to work. So I've inserted it that way. And also just asking open-ended questions in the lesson. How would you like that? How would you like that to go? What is it about that you, in something that they might be singing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So actually with how would you like that to go? It sounds like something that you and I talked just a little bit before we went live, which is some ways in which you combine your vocal work when you're teaching people and your positive psychology work.
Yeah. And the coach training. Exactly. For sure. Yeah. And I think as a teacher, as a voice teacher, I've absolutely changed my lens, because I think that, we kind of train the way we were trained. And I think that I had a lot of different teachers, and they were all beautifully well-intended, but I can't say that they were always super loving, And so what I bring into my teaching now is, how important positive emotion is within a learning environment, and how important kind of the person is within the learning environment. And so that's for me, how I've grown as a teacher. For sure, I've gone more in that direction.
Let me also take a different angle, especially for people who are watching this and saying this interoception. Let's say I've even heard of proprioception and standing on one foot. But with this interoception, I don't even know where to start. Let's say I believe Heather, but I don't even know on my own where to start. I don't have a coach. I'm just listening. I'm interested in this idea that connecting with myself is going to help me with other things. What are some first things that those people should do?
Yeah, I would say just begin to just sit in your chair and notice yourself in the chair. Notice what you feel. What is the temperature on your skin? Just start to notice what your senses are, because that, even exteroception is the idea of our five senses, right? So that can bring you in, just smelling, seeing, just focusing your sight, focusing your hearing, touch, taste. And then, and this comes from Dr. Dan Siegel. This is sort of a version of what he talks about of then from that, once you've sort of contacted your external senses, then kind of going inside and just beginning to notice, all right, what are your feet doing on the floor? Like, just as simple as that. Like, what is the temperature of that? And where are there some aches and pains, or some little things, or is there some space? Is there something, just by breathing, can you feel a certain amount of space opening just in your lungs? What does that feel like? And just beginning to notice those things. I think that's a really great first step.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm also observing, even as we're speaking, you're giving an example, and you settle into a breath, or you settle into, I'm just observing things that I think you must naturally do in your teaching.
I try, yeah. It helps not to be right now commuting on the train and running around like a crazy person and teaching from here. But yes, thank you for reflecting that back. I mean, I think in order to share it with others, you have to be able to do it, and you have to be able to kind of monitor yourself in this moment. And yeah.
Please let us know if you are with us today. What are you, first of all, have you taken a breath as you've been watching Heather and me on this call? Have you actually noticed yourself taking a breath, first of all? And second, any questions that you have for Heather? And finally, if you want to, in this context, what is a takeaway that you have? from being with us today. Heather, what is something that can be an obstacle to trying to be more towards interoception?
I think that if you are, I think it takes a little while to get into that place sometimes if you're super stressed out. I think that it is, there's sort of a winding down process to kind of allow yourself to get there. And I think that doing the steps that I was talking about, just being aware of your senses and then, kind of going from there can be helpful in grounding you. I would say even doing maybe, I don't know if anybody in the audience, I mean, I'm sure people in the audience do yoga. I don't know how many, but the alternate nostril breathing can be good for kind of bringing you into a grounded place. But I think you have to catch yourself. The thing is that if we're all wound up, that's the obstacle is not being able to catch yourself in that moment and bring yourself into a place where you can do the breathing or sit with yourself. I also think obstacles, I'll bring in the idea of practicing things like savoring and having awe in your life. The idea that all those things I think can also open ourselves up so that we can then settle and listen. So again, like if you're constantly on a loop and whatnot, and you haven't had time to just even take a breath, that's the big obstacle, I think. Yeah.
So give yourself the space to try to use this tool of listening to yourself.
Yeah. Something that I do want to say about this, and again, I am not an expert in this field, but people who have a certain amount of trauma in their background, this might not be the most helpful way to go. So keeping that in mind, I mean, anybody who has trauma and wants to explore things like this should be working with a healthcare professional, a licensed healthcare professional, because there are certain things about breathing and mindfulness that can be triggering to someone who has PTSD or who has a lot of trauma. And I just wanted to make sure that that's clear to people too, that know yourself and know what your history is. And if that you can, bring this in, then beautiful. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that caveat. That's super helpful. How often do you yourself check in this way, even throughout a day?
I have been really trying to do it all day, because I have absolutely noticed that when I have that awareness of not only, kind of who you said the proprioception and talking about exteroception and interoception, I can be way more present and I am way more loving, because there have been times that I've been called out for perhaps having a tone in my voice that wasn't pleasant, or whatever, just things that we all work on as human beings. And I think that a lot of that for me, it comes down to the fact that I was kind of in my head and in worker mode and not in this balanced place. So I am working all day. I check in when I'm teaching, when I'm walking, I'll just kind of bring myself back to it different times, as I think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And so our closing 3 questions. The first 3 is, could you summarize your idea, just even as a summary for someone to take away, in terms of what is your belief and why do you believe that?
I believe that we are whole, complete beings when we are in touch with all our senses, and that includes our internal senses, our external senses, and when we are aware of our thoughts and how we work with them. So I believe that. And what was the last part of the question? I'm sorry.
I don't remember myself. So what are some of the longer term benefits that you've seen from people doing this? Because you've mentioned some specific benefits in the moment when you're working with someone with vocal coaching, but what are longer term of having this attitude and approach?
I think that, when we are in this place of observing, we can make decisions based I don't know how to word this, but basically we can make choices that are more informed and more complete, and we're not reacting to things in a certain way. And so when we make those choices, then that just sort of, those waves of choices move out in positive ways away from us, and we're not constantly just kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Thank you. And then second to last question,
Yes.
What is a thought that you would like to leave the people who have been with us today with?
I think that, what is the thought that I'd like to leave them with? Based on what we were saying, I would say that people can change, and that, the more awareness we have around ourselves, the more options we have for change. And that goes in all walks of life. You don't have to be a singer or a performer. We have the ability at any time in our life to make new choices and to change. And when we have a big picture, we can do that.
Yeah. Thank you. And then last question, if you could snap your fingers and almost everyone in the world were to take some action, what action would you want that to be?
Just to love. I know it sounds like so hippy dippy, but seriously, like just take a moment and appreciate and love the people around you, and even the people that maybe you don't like so much. Just see if you can tap into that. That's my wish.
Heather Petruzzelli, thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you on. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you asked me. Thank you.